Good afternoon, everyone. I am Marcel Spirito. I am the first presenter of Group 2, and my assigned topic is all about creating a positive school culture. In this topic, I will discuss about school culture, culture and biology, culture as a concept, and culture and society. So let us know first what is school culture. So school culture is one of the most complex and important concepts in education, and it is the deeper level of basic assumption and beliefs that are shared by members of an organization that operates unconsciously and that define in a basic taken for granted fashion an organization's view of itself and its environment. So school culture is generally refers to the beliefs, perceptions, relationships, attitudes, and written and unwritten rules that shape and influence every aspect of how school function. Pero, ang kana nga term is also encompasses more concrete issues such as the physical and emotional safety of students, the order lines of classrooms and public spaces, or the degree to which a school embraces and celebrates racial, ethnic, linguistic, or cultural diversity. So there are many examples of school cultures such as the symbols, stories, legacy of the school, language, traditions, rites of passage, and also the habit. So such as an environment where being late for class is taken seriously. The heart of school culture and what makes it so hard to grasp and change. So, first is how we view the world. Culture describes how things are and acts as a screen or lens through which the world is viewed. So, it means that the culture defects how things are and acts as a screen or the focal point through which the world is seen. So, in quintessence, it characterize reality for those inside a social organization that gives them support and characterize that makes a system for world or word relate learning. And then each school has a different reality or mindset of school life, often captured in the simple phrase, the way we do things around here. So it means that ang kana siya nga phrase is typically refers to the complex or subtle practices that become ingrained in an organization's culture. So to the point na where they become part of its identity. So the habitual thought and behaviors are not bad in themselves. Indeed, they are often the basis for what a school does well. But when circumstances, school shift or the school becomes dysfunctional, those habits may need um, substantive change. So next is the cultural change. A school's age can impact cultural change. And then in the early years of a new school, dominant values emanate from its founder and the school makes its culture explicit. So what are the reasons for cultural change? So for cultural change can have many causes, including the environment, technological inventions, and contact with other cultures. So the cultures are externally affected via contact between societies, which may also produce or inhibit social shift and changes in cultural practices. Immaturity and or stagnation and decline is reached if the school has ceased growing and responding to its environment. This stage is most problematic from the cultural change perspective. Nahimo siyang problematic. It is because this stage is reached if the school has ceased growing and responding to its environment. Dysfunctional elements have surfaced and challenging old assumption is resisted. So mo na siya ang reason why is it this stage is the most problematic from the cultural change perspective. So next is vary between primary and secondary. In primary school, care and control influence their culture such that when pupils leave primary schools, there is a feeling that they have left a family. So in contrast, ang secondary school culture is influenced not only by large size and department structures but by the very fundamental nature of teachers' academic orientation. The difference between being, for example, ang math teacher and a science teacher, and the fragmented individualism. What do you mean by individualism? So it is a classroom as egg crates or castles. Autonomy, isolation, and insulation prevail, and blame and support are avoided. So in that pupils experience in moving from one subject and teacher to another. So next is influenced by school community. Locally, a school's community, including the students' parents, may have their own conception of what a school or real school is. A real school is what I attended when I was a child. Political and economic forces or changes in national policies can influence what is valued at school. So, as what local educational authority or LEA, they can also help create an improvement mindset as well as having its own improvement orientations and language. So, the political and economic forces or change in national or local educational policies are also influences. So, for example, focusing the external assessment system only on core subjects at primary level. And also it influences what is valued in schools, and then teaching unions are another aspects of the external context that can impact on the school culture and thus its orientation to improve. So mo na siya ang sa influence by school community or school culture is influenced by school's external context. So the last one is changes in society. Changes might relate to learning, the student population, organizational management, rapid technological developments, or other societal changes. Such changes often demands rapid responses from a school. So whether they be related to learning, the pupil population, organization management, rapid technological development, or the changing role of women, such societal changes often demand rapid responses from school. But while culture changes as participants change, it can also be a stabilizing force. And then, particularly for those who have been part of the culture for a longer period, it can therefore appear problematic for those in search of quick fix changes, because it often seems as if it is an unmovable force, while culture presents therefore the paradox of both being static and dynamic. In reality, it is constantly evolving and being reconstructed. So next is the culture and biology. When we say culture and biology, human beings are biological creatures. We are composed of blood and bones and flesh. At the most basic level, our genes express themselves in physical characteristics affecting bodily aspects such as skin tone and eye color. So, moingon tag, ang culture ba is part ba siya sa biology? Yes, culture is part of human biology. Once we grasp this fact, tools for the synthesis of the genetic and cultural aspects of our humanity leap to hand. The similarities of genes and culture as inheritance system means that it is easy to build theory in which they interact. Human beings are biological creatures and are to a very great extent influenced by their biological makeup. Our nervous system and hormonal changes in our body considerably influence our behavior. For example, mag-exercise ta regularly, we can build strong muscles, and by doing yoga, we can to a great extent bring changes in our physiological functioning. Culture. So culture is refers to the way we understand ourselves both as individuals and as member of society, and includes stories, religion, media, rituals, and even language itself. Culture necessarily changes and is changed by a variety of interactions with individuals, media, and technology, just to name a few. So, culture tells human what to do, how to do it, and when it should be done. Humans have more individual freedom of actions than any other creatures. So, ang culture is limits choices and make it difficult to act in a ways that deviates from cultural norms. So, culture also a human beings learn to do, to use, to produce, to know, and to believe as they grow to maturity and live out their lives in the social group to which they belong. Culture as a concept. Culture is primarily an anthropological term. The field of anthropology emerged around the same time as social Darwinism in the late 19th and early 20th century. So as we all know that culture is the patterns of learned and shared behavior and beliefs of a particular social, ethnic, or age group. It can also be described as a complex whole of collective human beliefs with a structured stage of civilization, and that can be specific to a nation or period time. So social Darwinism was the belief that the closer cultural group was to the normative Western European standard of behavior and appearance, the more evolved that group was. So, ang social Darwinism is applied the biological laws of evolution and natural selection to a sociological point of view to explain the socio-economic differences seen in society. And then, ana to mga social Darwinist, nagatuo sila na ang social Darwinism is a survival of the fittest. So, the idea that certain people become powerful in society because they are innately better. So, ang social Darwinism has been used to justify imperialism, racism, mga eugenics, and social inequality at various time over the past century. So one of the key figures in this school, Cesar Lombroso, studied the physical characteristics of prisoners because he believed that he could find a biological basis of crime. Next is, initially anthropologists believed that culture has a product of biological evolution and that cultural evolution depended exclusively on physical condition. So, because kana man gud siya nga statement is kanang ang culture is mag-change gid siya because there are many potential nga mo paspas gid ang genetic adaptation sa isa ka tao, and then the dynamic of construction that are driven by cultural traits play a prominent role in human evolution, yet only in recent decades has cultural evolution begun to be explicitly incorporated into human evolutionary ecology. Next is culture and society. So what is society? So society is the bigger cooperating social group with an organized sense of relationship, and it is also a sum of interactions and people. So culture, so as what I have said, culture can be seen as tradition that creates cohesion and continuity. It has a lot of different meanings, and also it is the trait of populations, behavior, values, and beliefs. So what is the relationship between culture and society? So as simple, the relationship between culture and society, it is because of the mutual existence. So what do you mean by this? So ang pasabot ani is culture and society are coexistent. There is no culture could exist without society, and equally no society could exist without culture. And also the relationship between that two word is not identical because culture and society may have the same common elements, but the two are not the same. They are not identical. And also, it is essential in difference. Ang society is composed of people, and then ang culture consists of knowledge, ideas, customs, traditions, mores, and beliefs, and also organizations and artifacts. Civilization. An organized culture encompasses many communities, often on the scale of a nation or a people. Next is high culture, the artistic, entertainment, and material artifacts associated with the society's aristocracy or most learned members, usually requiring significant education to be appreciated or highly skilled labor to be produced. Next is popular culture, the prevailing vernacular culture in any given society. Nationalism, the idea of supporting one's country and culture patriotism. Next is culture encompasses human elements beyond biology. For example, our norms and values, the stories we tell, learn or acquired behaviors, religious beliefs, arts and fashion, and so on. And next is different societies have different cultures. So it is important not to be confused the idea of culture with society. Culture represent the beliefs and practices of a group, while society represent the people who share those beliefs and practices. That's all.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, ma'am. I am Malvin Gamban, and this is my report. First, material culture refer to the objects or belongings of a group of people. Ito yung pagmamayari ng mga tao katulad ng cellphone, sasakyan, na halos sinasamba na ng mga tao ngayon. While the second one is non-material culture, in contrast, consists of ideas, attitude, and belief of society. Here in the Philippines, we have a different religion, like Muslim and Katoliko. The Muslim, meron silang mga belief na sinusunod, at yung mga Katoliko naman, meron din naman silang sinusunod na belief. The history of culture. Some people think of culture in the singular, in the way that it was thought of in Europe during the 18th and 19th century as something achieved through evolution and progress. This concept of culture reflected inequalities within European societies and their colonies around the world. In short, pinapatay nito yung mga kultura sa sibilisasyon At ayon sa pag-unawa ng kultura, ang ilang bansa ay mas sibilisado kaysa sa iba. When people talk about culture in the sense of civilization or refinement, they are really talking about high culture, which is different from the sociological concept of culture. Pag sinabi nating high culture, hindi ibig sabihin nito yung mga belief na sinusunod ng bawat relihiyon, kundi high culture, it is a activities such as a high fashion or museum caliber art and classical music. Popular or pop culture by contrast is more mainstream and influenced by mass media and the common opinion. The example or the best example of popular or pop culture is Britney Spears dahil sumikat si Britney Spears sa pamamagitan ng mass media, mas nakilala siya sa buong mundo dahil nakikita siya sa television. Aboriginal culture. Early colonial definition of culture equated to culture and civilization and characterized Aboriginal people as uncivilized and uncultured. This definition of culture only recognizes a single standard or refinement, to which all groups are held accountable. Thus, people who differ from those who believe themselves to be culture in the sense are not usually understood as having different culture. Culture universal. A culture universal is an element, pattern, trait, or institution that is common to all human culture worldwide. Ito yung mga na-adapt ng mga Pilipino sa ibang bansa katulad ng mga K-pop song. Mas sinatangkilik na ng mga Pilipino yung mga K-pop song kaysa dito sa Pilipinas. From Boas, understood culture to include not only certain tastes in food, art, in music, or belief about religion, but instead assume a much broader notion or culture. Culture Universal listed by Donald Brown 1991 are abstract speech, figurative speech, and metaphor, antonyms and synonyms in units of time. Culture Universal listed by Brown, some were investigated by France. Franz Boas two debate have dominated cultural anthropology. Culture, the belief, values, behavior, and material object that constitute people way of life. Particular, specific case, and individual things as opposed to whole class. Universal, common to all society worldwide. The sociology of culture concern culture, usually understood as the symbol of symbolic code by the society as it is manifested in society. The element of culture include: first, a symbol. Anything that carries particular meaning recognized by people who share the same culture. The second one is the language. System of symbols that allow people to communicate with one another. Third one, values. Culturally defined as standard that serve as a broad guidelines for social living. Fourth one, beliefs. Specific statement that people hold to be true, and the last one is norms, rules and expectation by which a society guides the behavior of its members. First cousin marriage in law in the US. In state mark, dark blue, it means first cousin marriage is legal. Light blue signifies that it is legal but has restriction or exemption. Pink signify that is a banned with exemption. Red signifies that is banned via statute. And dark red signifies that it is criminal offense. Culture shock is a personal disorientation a person may feel when experiencing an unfamiliar way of life in a new country. Culture shock has four different phases. First one, during the honeymoon phase, the differences between the old and new culture are seen in romantic light. The second one, after some time, usually around 3 months depending on the individual, differences between the old and new culture become apparent and may create anxiety. This is the mark of the negotiation phase. The third one, in the adjustment phase, one grows accustomed to the new culture and develop routines. In the adjustment phase, one grew accustomed to the new culture and developed routines. One know what to expect in most situations, and the host country no longer feels all the new. The last one is in the mastery stage. Assignees are able to participate fully in comfortably in the host culture.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. First and foremost, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Gilbero Shalame and I am the next representative this afternoon. Ethnocentrism and Cultural Relativism is the title of my report. Ethnocentrism often entails the belief that one's own race or ethnic group is the most important, or that some or all aspects of its culture are superior to those of other groups. When we say ethnocentrism, the tendency to look at the world primarily from the perspective of one's own culture. For example, between the Mandaya and the Aita groups, they have different beliefs in their own race. If the Mandaya tribes is considered their own culture higher than the Aita cultures, Aita is also considered by them to be smaller or taller than other ethnic groups. Within this ideology, individuals will judge other groups in relation to their own particular ethnic groups or culture. Another example, Asian cultures are found in all of Asian countries. Chopsticks are used with every meal throughout Asia. These individuals may not consider it vital to learn that people in other societies, such as the United States, eat with fork, spoons, and knives. Ethnocentrism, a term coined by William Graham Sumner, is a tendency to look at the world primarily from the perspective of your own ethnic culture and the belief that is in the fact the right way to look at the world. So as a result, based on your own conventions, values, and beliefs, you may make inaccurate assumptions about other people's behavior, reluctance or resistance to trying the cuisines of another culture. For example, is ethnocentric. Cultural differences are viewed as neither inferior or superior by social scientists. So as a result, they will be able to contextualize their study topics within the proper cultural framework while also examine their own prejudice and assumptions. This is referred to as cultural relativism. Cultural relativism is the belief that the concepts and values of a culture cannot be fully translated into or fully understood in other languages, that a specific cultural artifact has to be understood in terms of the larger symbolic system of which it is a part. Franz Boas introduced cultural relativism as an axiom in anthropological research in the first few decades of the 20th century, and his students later popularized it. Civilization is not anything absolute, but something relative, and our thoughts and conceptions are accurate only as far as our civilization goes, Boas wrote in 1887. Next is the principle that an individual person's beliefs and activities should be understood by others in terms of that individual's own culture. The idea that no one, not even academics, starts from the neutral perspective is a major component of cultural relativism. The best method to cope with our own assumption is to admit them rather than deny them, and then use the knowledge that we are not neutral to influence our findings. An example of cultural relativism might include slang words from specific languages, and even from particular dialects within a language. For example, the Spanish term tranquilo literally translates to calm in English. It can, however, be used in a variety of ways other than as an adjective. Tranquilo can be a command or an advice that encourage someone to relax. It can also be used to de-escalate a heated dispute or to express self-control. There is no obvious English translations of the word, And a cultural relativist would argue that one of the most throughoutly immerse oneself in culture, where the word is used in order to properly appreciate its numerous possible uses. By the way, when we say culture, culture is the or as a general concept consists of both, which is material culture and non-material culture. But first, let's take a look at material culture. Material culture is also a term used by historians, sometimes termed material history, which refers to the study of ancient objects and artifacts in order to understand how a particular culture was organized and functioned over time. Material culture is a phrase in the social sciences that refers to the interaction between items and social ties. It was coined in the late 19th and early 20th century. Material culture consists in physical objects that humans make. Example, clothes as material culture. Second, periodicals as material culture. Third, computers as material cultures. Clothes as material culture, fashion is part of material culture. Periodicals as material culture, media such as magazine are part of material culture. Computers as material culture. Computers are an increasingly common part of everyday life for most people. They constitute an increasingly significant part of our material culture. So these things are inextricably linked to the historical, geographic, and social context in which they were created. For example, the clothes you are wearing could reveal information about current fashion trends to future scholars. Symbolic culture is a concept used by archaeologists, social anthropologists, and sociologists to designate the cultural realm constructed and inhabited uniquely by Homo sapiens. People's attitudes towards and perceptions of items are influenced by their social and cultural context. So as a result, the relationship between a culture's relationships to materiality can be used to discuss social and cultural perspectives. The study of culture's relationship to materiality can be used to discuss social and cultural attitudes. People's attitudes towards and receptions of items are influenced by their social and cultural context. Anthropologists conceive of different cultures as having distinct patterns of lasting customary sets of meaning based on a notion of cultures as a symbolic system with adaptive functions that varies from the place to place. Material and symbolic cultures are distinguished by anthropologists not just because they reflect various types of human activity, but also because they are different types of data and require different approaches to examine. Between World Wars I and II, this perspective of culture grew to determine anthropology, implying that each culture was circumscribed and had to be understood as a whole on its own terms. As a result, cultural relativism holds sway and implying that there are no better or worse civilizations, only different ones. Non-material culture. So, non-material culture includes the behaviors, ideas, norms, values, and beliefs that contribute to a society's overall culture. In contrast to material culture, non-material culture does not include physical objects or artifacts. Material culture, it refers to the interaction between items and social ties and was coined in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Non-material culture, on the other hand, excludes actually items and artifacts. Any ideas, beliefs, values, or conventions that shape a society are examples. Next, it includes things that have no existence in the physical world but exist entirely in the symbolic realm. Examples are concepts such as good and evil, mythical inventions such as gods and underworlds, and social constructs such as promises and football games. So that rather than laws arising from divine intent or nature, structures are typically regarded to be the byproducts of numerous human choices. The concept of symbolic culture draws from semiotics and emphasizes the way in which distinctively human culture is meditated through signs and concepts. The symbolic aspect of distinctively human culture has been emphasized in anthropology by Emil Durkheim, Claude Levi Strauss, Clifford Geertz, and many others. Semiotics emphasizes the way in which distinctively human culture is meditated through signs and concepts. When sociologists discuss norms, they are referring to what's deemed typical, appropriate, or ordinary for a specific group of individuals. Social norms are views held by a group about how members should act in a specific situations. Norms are laws that control how people behave in society according to sociologists. Culture's norms are related to values. However, values are more global and abstract than norms. Values describe what should be considered as good or bad, whereas norms are standards for behavior in certain contexts. It is customary to fly the national flag on holidays, but it also demonstrates patriotism, which is a value. As a funeral, it is customary to dress solemnly and wear dark clothes. They reflect the principles of respect and support of friends and family in several cultures. Varying cultures place different emphasis on different ideals. And finally, beliefs are people's perceptions of how the universe works. Beliefs might be religious or secular, and they can be about anything. Many people in the US or United States, for example, feel that hard effort is the route to success. Members participate in a culture even if their personal views do not totally align with certain of the culture's sanction or normative standards. This demonstrates a person's capacity to synthesize and extract valuable characteristic from the various subcultures to which they belong. So, in that way, norms, values, and beliefs are intricately linked. They provide a way to comprehend the culture when taken together. Yun lamang po. Thank you for taking the time to listen and good afternoon once again.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, classmates. I am Jessamy Waban, the presenter for the topic School Climate and School Culture. So before I start with my topic, I want everyone to listen since majority that are enrolled in this course are future educators. So learning about the importance of school culture and school climate will be your guide to help your students to engage and learn best in the future. Okay, so first, let's get to know the definition and the differences between the two. School climate is the feel of the school. It is the behavior and point of views exhibited and experienced by the students and professors and other stakeholders. Kung binisayon pa, mao ni ang kalag o batasan sa school kung unsa the way mag-converse ang professors and the students, kung positive or negative ba ang student-teacher relationship, kung ang school ba naghatag og positive or negative school life sa mga estudyante, ang safety, no? Ang security, the feeling of belongingness, ang respeto sa matag usa, ug ang learning environment is maayo ba sa mga students. Okay. While the school culture refers to the way things are done within school. Kung unsa ang mga polisiya, ilang norms, values, the goals, the school's vision and mission. So now, what do you think is the most important? So I inserted a short instructional and visual representation of school culture, no, about school culture and school climate for you to grasp the idea of it. So let's play the clip.
Now, think how the weather can have a positive or negative effect on your day. Just the same, school climate will affect your performance at work. School climate ranging from cold and toxic to warm and supportive. Why is school climate so important to a school's organization? Research has shown school climate to have an effect on the overall academic success of a school. Drug and alcohol use are tied to school climate and may increase or decrease depending on the climate. Teachers have a very high turnover rate. Teachers leave schools with toxic climates. Individuals feel comfortable in positive environments. Students are more engaged academically when in a warm, supportive environment. School violence is at a dangerous level right now, and school climate must be taken very seriously. Lastly, school attendance. What can a school do to create a positive school climate? I personally feel it's best when schools hire and promote from within their organization. I believe it builds trust among staff members and promotes positive work ethics. Everyone at work wants to feel valued. Be sure to give all staff members a voice in decision making. Schools are a happy place when students and teachers are excited and even challenged in their work. Schools will always have a desperate atmosphere if they are lacking in this important component: school safety. In almost any workplace, there are going to be negative people. However, it's very important to address these individuals. The best classrooms are the ones where students and teachers are encouraged to take chances. People won't take chances unless they are allowed to fail. And lastly, both individual and group goals are an important element to a positive school climate. What does it look like to have a positive school climate? First off, when you walk into the school and check out the classrooms, you want to see all students on task with engaging work. You should find staff members collaborating together, whether it be through co-teaching or developing lesson plans or helping each other out with disruptive students. Schools that care about safety incorporate character and anti-bullying instruction into the curriculum. To prevent bullying, it takes awareness and commitment. An indicator of a positive climate is seeing clear expectations being enforced for each student. You will notice parents are involved. Schools with warm climates seek out parents and interact with parents in meaningful ways. Now let's move on to the final part of the video lesson. Climate surveys. There is no set number of times to assess climate, but about once a year should be enough. School climate surveys should be sent out to different groups of people, such as parents, custodians, students, lunch personnel. Basically, everyone involved should take the survey. One good thing about these school climate surveys is that you don't need to create them from scratch. You can simply browse the web, as there are plenty found throughout the internet. However, not everything on the internet is accurate. Look for validity and reliability in these surveys. Right now, I would just like to thank you for your time and ask that you please subscribe to this channel, and I will appreciate it.
Okay, so according sa video, no, it is clear nga school culture must be established and will be implemented in a right way. Why? Unsa di ay ang resulta kung dili maayo ang pagkapa-implement, no, sa school culture? What will happen to the students, to the entire school? Of course, it will lead to chaos. It will lead to bullying, dishonest culture, security issues, negative student-teacher relationships, and it will also lead to students' low academic performance, also to the school. Why? Kaya ang ilang school, walay klaro, walay goals or clear instruction kung asa sila padulong. So, school culture must be implemented right. Dapat ma-implement siya og maayo. Dapat ang stakeholders, ang professors, kay magkasinabot na sila para mag-shine the light, no, or kaning maguna siya kaning more siya virus nga pag maayo ang pamalakad aning more siya virus nga mukalat lang siya within the community. So kung maayo ang pamalakad, maayo ang resulta. Kung dili maayo ang resulta, meaning wala sila dili sila makakuha. Same sa ato sa UM. Maayon pamalakad sa UM, no, sa UM Tagum. So we got the accreditation. Gaan atong school life, dili siya samok. And then what I experienced, no, kay kuan man jud nako nga nindot ang student-teacher relationships sa atong mga professors. Walay mga ill nga mga kasakit or mga aligut-gut towards sa atong professors and also to our teachers, no, sa ato. And then across what I experienced po, no, kaya makita man ako sa UM Tagum is na ang respeto. Lahi-lahi man jud og kultura, no, lahi-lahi kung asa tagikan ang mga estudyante, lahi-lahi mga tinuuhan, na ay mga Muslim brothers nato and sisters, na ay mga Buddhist, na ay mga Christian. But aside ana, maskin pag despite sa kalahian nato, wala na siya na himong way, no, para magkabulag-bulag ta ninyo. Instead, pag maabot sa intrams, no, kaya magkaisa, magkahiusa jud tanan ba. And then it is a positive, no, nga kaning impression sa tanan, a positive feeling kay UM Tagum is one of a kind nga madato man ka or pobre, dili na siya magmatter kung unsa imong class or financial status nimo. Kay if lahi ba ka nga religion, wala ba kay kwarta or na ba kay kwarta, friends mo tanan. And then magkahiusan, no, na ay cooperation, and also sa atong mga teachers, sa atong mga professors, maskin lahi mga tinuuhan, dili na siya nahimong babag, no, or nahimong barrier nga ma-achieve nato atong mga learning outcomes, ato ang ma-achieve nato or ma-perform nato atong mga values, no. And yes, UM Tagum strives for everything, for excellence. And mo na akong perception as a student since almost 5 years na pud ko, kay since senior high man ko nag-start og eskwela sa UM Tagum. And that's what I like. Mo nagstay ko sa UM Tagum. Naging loyal jud ko because I love the school culture and school climate of UM Tagum. Nag-promote na ko, pero yes, tinood na siya. Wala na siya church. Okay, back to the topic. So, what is the role of school culture in learning? So school culture touches the diversity of the students' well-being and order within the classroom and common areas. That is what I am explaining kaganina. Okay, so let's proceed. Why school culture is important? When school culture is strong, teachers and students have a greater incentive to strive for their maximum potential. And then satisfaction, the moral, and fulfillment all grow as school culture blossoms. It also breeds dedicated teachers, the professional development and aptitude by improving their skills. Dedicated teachers guides their students toward excellence and more willing to praise their students for a job well done. It is also to improve. It helps to improve student outcomes. Yes. Kaya nga kang tungod no kay positive ang school culture nga gina ginahatag ni Tagum sa ilang mga estudyante kay makapromote sila og mga top-notchers, 'di ba? Legion of top-notchers baya ang Tagum. And mo na siyang resulta kay natay positive school culture. Nagkahiusa ang student teachers, and nagkaiusa sila, and then ato mga teachers pud no makapaningkamot jud dili lang kay kutob lang masteral ato mga teachers, mga doctors jud ato mga teachers. And ato mga teachers wala pud na sila nagundang og learn, wala na sa nag-undang og eskwela. Sige, gyapon na sa eskwela. Dagko na sa mga langgo. And dili basta-basta itong mga teachers dili sa sa Tagum. They are dedicated. They are willing to improve their skills. Dili basta-basta. Kaya nga, makapag-produce po si Tagum og mga top-notchers. And, yes, student outcomes. So what are the benefits that strong school culture can provide? Let's start with professional relationships between a school staff can become more congenial and productive. With collaborative input from all parties on major school decisions, a wider range of views becomes represented. Opportunities are more evenly distributed among the students' population, increasing the likelihood that disadvantaged students have a chance to succeed. Yes. Positive attitudes and behaviors exhibited by school leaders and administrators become infectious. Kaya nga kaganina, ito ingon ako, more siya virus. If maayong pamalakad, maayo lang attitude, work ethics, relationship with each other, moabot na siya, mo kalat na siya pina-live dito sa staff, mga professors and students. Filtering down to staff and students alike and improving the well-being of all. Next. So, how do we develop a positive school culture? Positive school culture is preferable to a negative one. Fostering one means focusing on the connections between school staff and students, along with the beliefs, attitude, and behaviors of school administrators. 5 pivotal strategies for building effective school culture. First, planning a bridge program for students and staff. So, orientations and etc. Then 2, making school-wide goals visible. Kailangan maging teamwork po. Dapat visible ang goals sa school, no? Para po ma-aware ang students na adere at padulong. Yes. Then 3, keeping a loyal opposition. Learning the skills of constructive criticism and ready to welcome any suggestions. 4th, establishing collaborative networks. Outside the box thinking. Then 5, holding school-wide rallies and assemblies, building positivity through celebrating achievements. Next, the importance of school culture. To have a sustainable improvement in student results and gaps, the school leaders and teachers should work on norms of behavior. What practices they follow, how they interact with each other, what values inform their behavior, how do the leaders model their behavior, These become the main guiding force in the school's capacity to learn, improve, design its long-term vision and mission, and impact the various stakeholders from the students to the parents. Some of the ways this can be demonstrated in schools are by creating an environment that fosters education for all, for one and all, by making extra efforts to reach out to the slow learners and disadvantaged students, by appreciating and acknowledging the hard work that is put in by the teachers and support staff, constantly looking for opportunities to enhance the teaching capabilities of the teachers, creating a language of support and care around the school, providing the teachers space where they can fearlessly talk about their challenges and difficulties, backing the teaching practices with cutting edge research and data, and aligning the teaching process to what is working with the education sector. So, how do all the above mentioned translate into behaviors that need to be implemented? So, to create strong bonds among the school community between the teachers and leaders, the leader needs to be trustworthy and should drive the agenda not from an ego perspective but a value perspective. The school leadership should subscribe to magazines, journals that focus on the latest research in the field of education. Dapat updated punta. And the leader needs to be genuinely interested in the well-being of his team and makes the effort to be seen interacting with all without prejudice. The leader participates in professional development courses with the teachers, thus demonstrating regard for constant learning. And lastly, the human values of love, respect, understanding, trust, kindness, and right conduct. So I hope you learned the importance, the differences of school culture and school climate. I hope you all learned that. Kaya magamit na to na pag-abot sa panahon. In case ma-principal na ta. Char, mag-teacher pa di. Sige. So, please, napatay last reporter. So, please listen to her also. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Christine May Robles, the last presenter of Group 2. My topic is all about proven ways to build a positive school culture. So there are 11 ways to build a positive school culture. Celebrate meaningful parent involvement, celebrate personal achievement and good behavior, establish school norms that build values, set consistent discipline, model the behaviors you want to see in your school, engage students in ways that benefit them, create rituals and traditions that are fun for students and teachers, encourage innovation in the classroom, professional development for teachers, maintain the physical environment of your school, and lastly, keep tabs on your school culture and make adjustments when necessary. Create meaningful parent involvement. So it is important to have a parent involvement for the student development, and it also helps improve student behavior in the classroom. So by generating clear, open communication with the parents of your student can help you avoid misunderstandings and remove feelings of mistrust or hostility. To involve parents in your school culture, give them a platform for feedback on classroom activities or school programs, and can ask them about their hopes or concern regarding their children's education. So as a teacher, mag-set ka og meetings and organize workshops where you can talk to their parents about their homework, study skills, and tests. So involving parents in school activities in a meaningful way also help foster positive feelings between the school and the parents. So you can ask parents to be in over event committees or to participate in school fundraiser. So for example, in Holbrook Elementary develop a parent university to get parents more actively involved in the school, and it also helped to build trust and rapport between the school and the families of the students. Celebrate personal achievement and good behavior. This means more than the occasional good job. Complimenting kids helps them to feel that they are cared for individually. Both you and your staff play a huge part in this aspect of your school culture. One way to generate more positive reinforcement from your staff is to set goals for the number of compliments each member has to give during the day or weeks. Encourage them to give us specific compliments that highlight what each individual student has done well. So by celebrating student success not only makes students feel good but also significantly impacts their memory, learning, and motivation to learn. And it also shows appreciation for the achievements and to boost their self-confidence and their self-esteem. Establish school norms that build values. Your school and classroom rules should be clear to all students and should be well regulated. So dili kinahanglan na magbuhat jud ka og rules for every possible situations. So instead, magbuhat ka og mga school norms on how to build a positive values in your class. So this helps kids to learn, not just unsa ilang buhaton or dili buhaton, but also nganong kinahanglan nila buhaton ug dili buhaton. So for example, instead of creating specific rules about chewing gum, use of water bottles, or electronic devices in the classroom, you could create a classroom rules that state, be respectful of the people around you. So to help students apply these norms, there should be consistency across the entire school building, not just inside of the school, but outside of the school. Set consistent discipline. Discipline leads to consistency. So discipline helps you make the right choice for your goals and you become consistent on your behavior. When rules are not followed, discipline must be administered. However, broadening the range of discipline methods can help encourage a positive school culture. Instead of constantly putting out fires, trying a more proactive approach to discipline. Giving a student detention after bad behavior teaches him that he did something wrong. But giving him a task that helps correct the wrong teaches him what he should done instead. It is essential that all disciplines presented consistently across the school. When all students are treated equally and bad behavior is disciplined in the same way in different classrooms, this helps remove feelings of mistrust among students. So having students work to correct their own wrongs, it helps to encourage them to take responsibility for their actions. Model the behavior you want to see in your school. You have a list of qualities and values that you want to see in your teachers and students. But how will you present those same aspects of your school culture? All changes have to start from the top. That means when you interact with teachers and students, you need to be an example of the behavior that you want to see in your school. For example, positive attitude is important for being a role model for your student to demonstrate a positive outlook even when you are tired. Then honesty, by being trustworthy and reliable with your class, you will help them to impart those values onto them. Then showing respect. If you want your student to be respectful towards you, then you need to show them that same level of respect. Engage students in ways that benefit them. One way to engage students and develop this type of skill is through social emotional learning. Social emotional learning is the process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve their personal goal. So throughout the day, encourage teachers to include activities that help students to develop qualities such as empathy, reliability, respect, concern, and a sense of humor. In the researcher brief Social Emotional Learning in Elementary School, researchers found that self-programs help students make more ethical decisions, maintain positive relationships, set and achieve goals at school and at home. and manage their emotions. So these programs promoted achievement at school and reduced substance abuse and emotional distress. Create rituals and traditions that are fun for students and teachers. The school day and school year should be punctuated with time for fun. This helps students engage with each other in positive events and builds morale in school. Creating appropriate times to have fun and laugh break up the day and gives students a chance to relax between learning. This helps them become more refreshed when returning to the classroom. Encourage innovation in the classroom. Innovation in the classroom starts with you, the school leader. The school leader will start on how to be innovative in the classroom, like introducing new ideas, devices, or methods. And the school leader will encourage the teachers to try new method of teaching. You can even set up regular meetings to discuss new research on teaching method or new teaching style and how this can be implemented in your school. These meetings will help the whole teaching staff to brainstorm and implement new ideas, bringing teachers into the process of building your school culture. For example, a game-based learning. Students playing Prodigy, a free game-based math platform on their tablets, particularly popular for improving results in topics like math. Video game-based learning has been shown to heighten the level of interest, concentration, and enjoyment of educational materials among students. In one study by the Joe and Gans Coney Center, almost 80% of the K-8 classroom teachers surveyed agreed that digital games have improved student mastery of curricular content, plus it's fun. Professional development for teachers. Students are not only people in your school who should be learning. Helping your teachers to develop their skills will encourage a positive school culture by giving them the ability to improve their craft. It's good to make sure that you, as the school leader, are aware of what your teachers think and feel in their work. Set up regular times to ask for feedback, hear out concerns, and get suggestions for improvement. So for example, in pairs each new teacher with a mentor at the beginning of their career at the school. This helps teachers to be fully aware sa mga school policies, rules, o hatagan sila og specific instruction on how the school uses teaching in the classroom. So by supporting new teachers in this way can help promote a consistent atmosphere across your school. Maintain the physical environment of your school. Physical environment refers to the overall design and layout of a given environment by organizing its spaces and materials to maximize the learning opportunities and engagement of every children. So the physical surroundings of students and teachers have a huge impact on the culture of your school. The HEAD project, or the Holistic Evidence and Design, took evidence from over 3,700 students in 27 diverse schools. They found that the physical space where students are learning can account for a 16% variation in the learning process over a school year. What aspect of a classroom have the most impact? As you can see in the picture, the novelty, stimulation, and freedom of movements, students enjoy a flexible sitting classroom. Sitting positively impacts behavior. According to educational researcher Cheryl Feinstein's book From the Brain to the Classroom, it was found that half of the learning impact came from the light, temperature, and air quality. The other half of the learning impact came from the factors such as individualization of the environment and the color of the room. And lastly, keep tabs on your school culture and make adjustments when necessary. Creating a positive school culture isn't just a matter of following a checklist. As a school leader, you need to stay informed of what's going on in your school and understand that the attitudes and atmosphere that permeate the hallways and classroom. Keep on the watch for the specific factors that indicate a positive school culture and keep using the steps above to reinforce those aspects. Also, be aware of any negative factors that have started to seep in, and take decisive action to remove those. Above all, take time to listen to feedback from both teachers and students in order to understand the experience that they are having in your school. Starting the process of improving your school culture involves analyzing the current situation of your school. This analysis process should become a regular part of your schedule. As I mentioned earlier, there are 11 ways to build a positive school culture. So, building a positive culture will take time and effort, but it's worth it. So, changing the attitudes of all the staff and students within your school won't be an overnight process. However, it will be worth to wait. This change process starts with you. So, make an effort to mimic the behavior and attitudes that you want to see displayed in your school. Let's proceed to another topic. What are classroom norms? So classroom norms are the behavioral expectation or rules of the class. So according to Gary Borich, professor of educational psychology at the University of Texas at Austin, in contrast to rules, which are teacher generated and work best when introduced on the first day, norms are an agreement among members of a classroom or school about how they will treat one another. There are three types of norms: those that pertain to safety and health or no showing, moral norms or help peers, and discretionary norms or clean your desk before leaving for the day. Norming and stages of group development. Bruce Tuchman's research on teams revealed that group development happens in 5 stages, regardless of the culture, language, or purpose of the group: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Teachers need to allow the first 2 stages to occur to 2 to 3 weeks before facilitating the classroom norming process. Here are brief description of those stages. Forming. Members are anxious about being accepted, so they behave cautiously. So in this stage, formalities are preserved and members are treated as strangers. So during a stage is getting to know each other. Second stage is storming. Dominant members emerge amid some confrontations, clarification about rules, and the group purpose is sought. So members are start to communicate but still view themselves as individuals rather than part of the team. Norming. Members grow more cohesive and interdependent communication, trust, and spirit the corps improves. So people feel part of the team and realize that they can achieve work if they accept other viewpoints. Performing. Productivity and autonomy are strong as members' problems solve to complete group objectives. So the team works in an open and trusting atmosphere where flexibility is the key and hierarchy is important. And lastly is adjourning. The team disbands. Mourning sometimes occurs. So the team conducts an assessment of the year and implement a plan for transitioning rules and recognizing members' contributions. To help students advance successfully through the first stage, establish clear goals during storming, stay positive during tense moments, and be ready to promptly address conflicts. Describe the team development process and reassure students that things will become easier when the later stages are reached. Also rehearse routines until they're automatic. How to facilitate classroom norming. When introducing a class to the norming process, state that the goal is to develop a class culture that promotes academic achievement. To address potential impatience, I explained that our class is like a supertanker. It won't turn quickly based on one's person needs, but we will arrive at the intended academic destination. In addition, mention that the class will revisit norms later in the semester and make course correction. Next, ask students to complete a problem or norm T-chart in a small groups. Before learners begin this task, talk them through the first entry to model the process. After 10 to 15 minutes, disseminate a list of potential problem areas and ask if they have already been addressed in each group's P-chart. If not, direct students to keep developing more norms that will handle these issues. There are lists of potential problem areas. Student-to-student interactions, the physical space and or personal property, sensitive topics, transitions, when the instructor leaves, is absent from the room, communication, using the pencil sharpener, drinking fountain or restroom, when tasks are finished early, smartphones, confusion or frustration, intolerance, and when needed materials are missing. There are two exercises that support the norming process. Exercise 1. What you should know about us. Purpose. Help learners accommodate classmate needs. Before norming day, have students take the Kersey Temperament Sorter, a personality assessment, and ask them to form groups with peers who give similar score. Ask the groups to A. Identify what their teammates have in common, and B. Decide what outside group should know about them. You'll need to ask the extrovert to talk quietly and the introverts to simply talk. Then ask the group to report on their discussion. So exercise number 2. What have you heard? During the first class, direct students to list what others have said about your teaching or class. Collect and sort the comments into categories. Then address the most common perception, which ones are correct, which beliefs should be dispelled. So the purpose of this is to rein in the random diffusion of perceptions and crystallize more productive norms. And that ends of our discussion. Thank you.